Hey everyone, and thanks for jumping back into the cryptoverse. Today, we're going to talk about Cardano and its native token ADA, and we're going to provide just a general outlook on ADA. If you guys like the content, make sure you subscribe to the channel, give the video a thumbs up, and stake your ADA with the Into the Cryptoverse stake pool. Let's go ahead and jump in. So the valuation of ADA right now is just below $1. And I want to talk about this in the context of the overall market so that you can understand what the risks involved are. Because there is always a risk involved in crypto. You know, things can go up more than we think. Therefore, if you don't have an allocation, there's the risk of it going up. But they can also go down more than we think sometimes too. And say if you have too much of an allocation, it can be painful if they go down too far. And I'm sure it already is painful for a lot of people, even with ADA at around 93 cents, because you can see that from the all-time high, ADA is down about 70%. All right, about 70%. Now, I wanted to talk about this because the market right now is in a very fragile place. It is. And, you know, I wish that it weren't such in a fragile place, but the truth is the overall market, not just ADA, the overall market is in a very delicate situation. And the reason is because of where Bitcoin is. Okay, so we need to understand where is Bitcoin to better understand how fragile the market is right now with respect to the altcoin market. And then, of course, by association, ADA, since ADA is in fact an altcoin. So right now, Bitcoin has been rejected off of its bull market support band. Okay, so you can see it went up to the 21-week EMA and got fairly decisively rejected here in the short term. Now, I'm sure Bitcoin will retest again. It'll retest it again at some point. But the problem in the short term is that when Bitcoin gets rejected by the bull market support band, usually what happens is you see altcoins take even a bigger hit. And you've probably noticed that, right? A lot of altcoins have taken a bigger hit. If you think about it, the valuation of a lot of altcoins right now, they're basically where they were when Bitcoin was at 33K. But they're already to those prices that they were back at that time, or they're even lower. Okay, so the risk on altcoins is very much real. Okay, so rather than being deterministic about whatever's going to happen in the market, because the truth is no one knows, right? We're not going to be deterministic here. We're going to go over a couple different paths and then the risk associated with that path. So that's what we're going to try to do in this video and provide a general outlook. So if Bitcoin is destined to put in a series, you know, to continue this series of, you know, essentially lower highs and lower lows, right? If it continues this series of lower highs and lower lows, and we end up seeing something, you know, like this, where it comes down and puts in a lower low, maybe near the summer lows of 2021, and then it bounces back up in, let's say, April or something like that. In a situation like this, if Bitcoin goes down this path, you should be aware that altcoins, not just ADA, but a lot of altcoins would take a significant hit. So there most definitely is a risk on the altcoin market, and by association, Cardano, since ADA is in fact an altcoin. So you need to understand that, okay? I know a 93-cent ADA isn't really that great, and we would all like to see it back above $1. But the problem is that Bitcoin right now is not showing a lot of strength. And so it's hard to have a lot of short-term confidence in the altcoin market if Bitcoin is not showing the strength that it can get back above its bull market support band, which is just the 20-week SMA and the 21-week EMA. For those that don't know, those values currently range from around 45K to 50K. So you would really like to see Bitcoin above those levels, right? So above 50K, holding it as support. If it's doing that, then the altcoin market actually looks relatively attractive. The problem right now is that, you know, we're seeing a series of lower highs and lower lows. Now, I want to talk about something else, because again, ADA's, you know, it's currently trading for around 93 cents. And that is, well, Ben, Cardano's at the bottom of the range, right? And you're right, it is. And so, you know, it could be a good buying opportunity depending on what Bitcoin does. But that's a pretty big dependency, right? It's basically saying like, okay, well, we're at the bottom of the range that we've been at before. We've had a couple of wicks to this level at around 90 cents or so. We had a wick down in April of 2021. We had a wick down in May of 2021 as well. We came down to this level back in January, and now we're here again for more or less the fourth time. And so The problem, I think, with acting too deterministically and saying that we have to bounce is that if Bitcoin puts in a lower low in the short term, so if Bitcoin does something like this and comes down here, and let's say it gets down to, to close to 30K or something over the next few weeks, and then it bounces back up, and maybe it has another test of the bull market support band. And even if it gets above the bull market support band at that time, ADA will take an even bigger hit. Okay, so I certainly would not act deterministically about anything. I know some people have asked me, is this a really great time? And if you've been around this channel for a long enough period of time, you know my general thoughts on the market. I will reiterate them here in case you are new, but it essentially stems from the idea that when Bitcoin is above its bull market support band, like up here or in this region, altcoins can do quite well, right? Especially when Bitcoin has held it as support, like it did right here, and then like it did right here. So in those cases, altcoins can do really well. And you see that even when you get Bitcoin corrections, like we saw back over here, and like we saw many of them up here, it didn't matter, right? Altcoins were very quick to recover, and many of them just continued to go on and put in higher highs, okay? Despite the fact that Bitcoin had corrections. Now, the problem is when we went below it in the summer, altcoins took an even bigger hit than Bitcoin. And if you think about it, like if you go from, say, May 10th until August. Okay, so let's go look at May 10th till August for ADA and see what happens. So May 10th until August. So this was May 10th, the week of May 10th, and you can see until August, ADA was in a downtrend. I mean, it dropped from 250 down to, almost below $1 during that time. So during that pullback by Bitcoin, at one point, ADA corrected 62% or so. But what happened, and I think it's also good to look at it with the ADA Bitcoin valuation as well. What happened during May to August is the ADA Bitcoin valuation also dropped by about 36%. Now, if you look closely, when did Bitcoin get above its bull market support band? Here. This was the first weekly open where Bitcoin was above its bull market support band. What was that? August 9th. August 9th. When did the ADA Bitcoin valuation pick steam back up? The week of August 9th. So the point is to say, look, ADA's valuation against Bitcoin does very well when Bitcoin is above its 20-week moving average and trending higher, okay? If you go back and look, ADA Bitcoin held the line at the 20-week SMA in September of 2020. So let's go mark that really quick. September of 2020. So ADA Bitcoin held the line right here. Bitcoin got above its bull market support band back in May of 2020. So we're going to mark that one as well. So May of 2020 is right here. So what happened when Bitcoin gets above its bull market support band, you can see altcoins do really well. The reason ADA went down against Bitcoin during this time is because altcoins just simply don't typically keep up with Bitcoin when Bitcoin is going parabolic. And you can see that Bitcoin really went parabolic, in Q4 of 2020. So the ADA Bitcoin valuation in, more or less the last part of the year of 2020, it went down. So the best conditions for altcoins like ADA is you want to see Bitcoin above its 20-week moving average, right? And you want to see it more or less trending sideways. Not that US dollar valuations of altcoins can't do well when Bitcoin's going parabolic. It's just that their Bitcoin valuations tend to bleed. And you want to take on the right amount of risk at the right time. And being heavy altcoins when Bitcoin's going parabolic isn't really the best strategy. You'd rather be heavy Bitcoin when Bitcoin is going parabolic and then take profits out of Bitcoin back into altcoins during that type of event. So right now, Bitcoin is not above its bull market support band. And unlike August, we've gotten recently rejected by the bull market support band. And when we get rejected by it, what happens? You see ADA's valuation come down quickly. We saw ADA's valuation come down incredibly quickly. It went all the way down to like 82 cents or 83 cents or something like that. So I want to caution people. Look, we put out all sorts of discussions about where ADA could be going and stuff. But remember, do not be deterministic about anything. All right. I mean, I I've been wrong plenty of times in this market. I have no problem admitting it. Been wrong plenty of times. You should not be deterministic about anything. No one knows what's going to happen. I guarantee you that if in a few weeks Bitcoin is trading for 50K, there's going to be tons of people there to say, you know, who bought the dip. But on the other hand, if Bitcoin in a few weeks is trading for 30K and ADA comes back down to say like 30, you know, the 30 to 40 cents range or something like that, then there's going to be a lot of people saying, you know, the reverse, right? They're going to just say, you know, who's been selling their altcoins. I got to say right now, as long as Bitcoin stays below its 20-week moving average, the short-term outlook is not very great. It doesn't mean that ADA can't bounce and do well, but it relies on Bitcoin bouncing and doing well. Whereas before, when Bitcoin's up here, it doesn't really rely on Bitcoin bouncing. It just relies on Bitcoin not doing anything and staying, you know, basically just staying where it is above its bull market support band. That's what it relies on. But right now, you know, the valuation of ADA is basically relying on Bitcoin to get above this level in the short term. Because if it doesn't get above that level and it just continues the downtrend, then not only is the ADA USD valuation going to bleed, the ADA Bitcoin valuation is going to bleed. You can see here that ADA Bitcoin valuation has been bleeding for quite a long period of time. And the ADA Ether valuation is also more likely to bleed if Bitcoin can't get back above its bull market support band. Okay? So to summarize, I really want to just help people understand the risk in the market right now. Okay? First of all, I have no idea what's going to happen in the short term. I make no claims to know what's going to happen in the short term. But right now, the valuation of Bitcoin is below its bull market support band and it has been rejected. So the risk profile on altcoins changes when that happens, right? We don't know, and you have to be willing to pivot your outlook if you see something different. Right now, we see Bitcoin below its bull market support band. It's been rejected twice. The ADA USD valuation is in a downtrend, obviously because of it, and furthermore, because we're below the 20-week moving average, especially the ADA Bitcoin valuation is in a downtrend. So with all this in mind, one of the things you can generally rely on is momentum. Momentum works both ways. When the market's trending up, you're better off just assuming it's going to trend up for a while, but when the market's trending down, you're often better off just assuming it's going to trend down for a while until proven otherwise. And to prove otherwise, what we really want to see is we want to see Bitcoin get above its bull market support band. Until that time, I don't know when it's going to happen. Until that time, it does make sense to be cautious on altcoins in general. Okay, so you know the general idea that betting the family farm, you know, at range lows, you have to be careful with that mentality because it is relying on something very specific for Bitcoin to do. And if Bitcoin doesn't do that very specific thing of getting back above this level in the short term, then it's a very dangerous game to play. Okay. The only reason I'm telling you this, I'm certainly not saying it to spread FUD or to instill fear. I'm just saying it so that you understand the risk involved in the market. All right. Again, if you think it can't drop more, it can, right? I mean, it doesn't have to. You know, early in 2021, there were, I mean, even me included, you know, a lot of people, and even a lot of people that only talk about Cardano and its native token ADA, right? They also warn about significant drops that could take ADA back down to 60 cents or whatever. And a lot of times these sort of price predictions get made fun of and brushed off. But there is always a real possibility that ADA could drop further in the event that Bitcoin puts in a lower high. Okay, so there's really no way to sugarcoat it. I personally was hoping to see ADA break out in March, but I'm not as optimistic at the current time because of where Bitcoin is. And I have to respect the price action that Bitcoin is showing us. So right now, we're holding resistance on the bull market support band, not support. And so since we're holding resistance, I'm not as optimistic on a March breakout for ADA as I once was. I think that we need to see a healthy Bitcoin first before we could see ADA do something like that. So, you know, the general idea that it can't drop further, you know, I mean, you know, tell that to the people that bought at the top in 2018 and watched it drop 98%. Okay, so, and by the way, if you want a little bit of history here, some people have said they like hearing these stories, so I'll tell another one. So I actually did pretty well in 2017, 2018. I got completely wrecked completely wrecked in 2013. And if you guys, I mean, Bitcoin dropped a lot back then. Okay, I mean, I know we look at 2018 a lot, but really 2013 was a lot. I think 2013 was more brutal. Not just because it dropped 87%, but because no one really knew what was going to happen, right? Like, I think, in 2018, there was definitely a lot more optimism that we were going to get some type of a rally, right? I think there was a lot more optimism because it wasn't everyone's first rodeo anymore. Like, we've seen this stuff before. If you experience 2014 and then you see 2018, it's like, all right, well, we've seen this show before. We usually know how it ends, and then there's a new beginning to another show coming up right after it. So we were more optimistic in 2018. But in over here, I mean, I wasn't really as optimistic, and every time it went up, it just seemed to get sold off here, and then it had this rally, and then it came down again. But even over here, I remember being relatively pessimistic about the market, and I mean, Cardano wasn't trading back then, but I remember owning Ethereum, and Ethereum, went up to like $14, and it came all the way back down to $6 or $7, and I was pretty sure at the time it was just going to go back down to $1. To be completely honest, right? But it didn't, right? And it went on a fairly nice rally. So I wanted to mention, a story I had with ADA was I actually started accumulating it this cycle over here, actually, at the very end of 2018, before the drop, okay? And I thought I was smart. I thought I was like, all right, man, like I've avoided watching it drop 95%. I'm going to be the smart investor and come in and scoop ADA up 95% off and just let everyone else wait. It's about to rally here, and it's gonna do something like this, and everyone's going to be wishing they had bought as well. What happened? The market humbled me extremely quickly. And after I was DCAing for a few months, the market, and by the way, this was after ADA was already down 95%. I was buying it here. It proceeded to drop another 65 to 70%. So I thought I was smart. I came in, I was buying ADA at around 8 or 9 cents, 7, 8, 9 cents. I thought I was like, all right, makes a lot of sense. It still dropped 65%. Who knows? Who knows what's going to happen in this market? I certainly thought there was a good chance that, we could have just held it at 7 or 8 cents. I didn't think we were going to go back to 2 cents, which is basically where we started off in late 2017 before the parabolic rally to $1.38. But there we were. We dropped another 65%, which is not that dissimilar from what we just saw. I mean, this was a 70% drop. So just as a general reminder, okay, just because something drops doesn't mean it can't drop further. And so the idea that you should YOLO everything at a very certain price level, is not necessarily the smartest decision, because you're relying on something to happen very specifically, right? You're relying on Bitcoin to do a very specific thing, and if it does not do that thing in the short term, you could see another 60% drop. By the way, another 60% drop by ADA, would take it back to the 30 to 40 cent range. I'm not saying this is what I'm hoping for. I mean, I'm certainly not. But it would be foolish to say it's not a possibility, right? It would be foolish to say that it can't happen, because I didn't think it was going to drop to 2 cents over here after it fell 95%, and it still dropped another 60 or 70%. Now, in hindsight, did buying right here, was it bad? I mean, I guess not. But, I mean, if you put in $100 at, when it was over in this range, like if you put in, if I can't even type on here, and if you put in $100 right here, you instantly saw that basically turn into like $30 or $35 in just a few weeks. So bear markets have a way of humbling you. All right. So what I would say is don't try to be a hero calling the bottom. No one knows where the bottom is. It's possible. It's possible that if Bitcoin gets above its bull market support band in the short term, that this could be the low again for ADA, and perhaps it will bounce back up, and we'll just be singing "Who Bought the Dip." But the problem is that it's too deterministic, right? It's too deterministic to say that, and so you need to have a plan in place to take advantage of a situation where we drop. Because I guarantee you, I would have preferred to have not gone as heavy here, so that I had more to buy during this phase. Because even though this ended up being a relatively good price today, I mean, if you think about it, like it's still a 10x up from where we are today. I mean, even though ADA is trading for 90 something cents, it's still basically 10x from that accumulation area. It didn't stop me from wishing I had a more flexible plan if the market dropped. So if you're sitting in a position where you're 100% into crypto and you have no cash on the sidelines, you're not setting yourself up to navigate this market at all. Even if the market does turn up, I would just argue it's pure luck, right? It's a coincidence. It's luck that it goes up in the short term, not necessarily you calling the bottom. It just happened to be that's where the bottom was, and then you got lucky. And there definitely are times where we get lucky about things. Okay, so try to have a plan. Do recognize that there is a significant risk right now on altcoins, not just because of the fact that a lot of altcoins are at the range low, but the main reason is because Bitcoin is getting rejected off of its bull market support band. And because of that, we have to assume that in the short term, the risk profile on altcoins is higher than it was before Bitcoin was either rejected off of it or fell below it. Okay. My general thinking is when Bitcoin falls below it, the risk profile on altcoins goes up sky high. Okay. So like right here in November, when Bitcoin fell below it, I instantly, in my head and my strategy, I instantly say, all right, the risk on altcoins is a lot higher when Bitcoin goes below the bull market support band, just like it did here and just like it did here. And remember, the ADA Bitcoin valuation did not have this breakout after this downtrend until August 9th, which again is where Bitcoin had its first weekly open above the bull market support band. So my general thinking is that the ADA Bitcoin valuation over the macro scale, in at least, well, maybe not the macro scale, but at least in the short to medium term, is more likely to bleed than not until Bitcoin gets back above either its bull market support band or if it has some type of major capitulation. Like if Bitcoin has a major capitulation with a lot of volume come into the space, you could see ADA capitulate as well against Bitcoin, and then maybe it resumes like an uptrend or something. So please be careful out there. It's a very fragile market right now, especially with the NASDAQ, testing its prior lows and Bitcoin right around 38K and being rejected off of its bull market support band. There is a lot of risk right now in the market. So take that to heart. Try to come up with a plan to navigate this market regardless of what happens, and do not be deterministic about anything. But if you're going to be deterministic about anything, it should be, I think, that Bitcoin trends up with time. I know this is an ADA video and a Cardano video, but I have to say that. If you're going to be deterministic about anything, it should be that Bitcoin trends up with time. Altcoins can get absolutely wrecked when Bitcoin gets rejected off of its bull market support band multiple times in a row. Okay, so if the scenario plays out like this, where it comes down and keeps coming back up, altcoins are going to get wrecked more than Bitcoin in that situation. And then eventually Bitcoin will get back above it, and then the risk profile on altcoins will change again. But you have to be willing to respect the price action of Bitcoin. And right now, Bitcoin has been rejected, and we are not yet seeing a rally above it. So be careful. Do not assume that the range here has to hold. It could, but it's very dependent on Bitcoin doing a very specific thing, and it's too deterministic to assume. If you guys like the content, make sure you subscribe to the channel, give the video a thumbs up. We also have the sale on the premium list at intothecryptoverse.com. Thank you guys for tuning in. I'll see you next time. Bye.